Okay, good morning, everyone. Today, we actually do not have our chair or vice chair, so we're going to have to elect a temporary chair. But first, we're going to call the meeting to order. It's 9:31 a.m., and Ruth is going to do roll call.
At this time, I am only asking those TAC members attending in person to respond by saying here when I call your name. Alternates, please also state your name if you are attending on behalf of a TAC representative. As a reminder, please press your microphone button once to turn on and off. Jim Bell,
Dimash bin Rahman for Jim Bell.
Naresh Machavarapu,
Pia Hansanunu, alternate.
Andrew Mack, Jason Kaufman,
Here.
Denise Malone,
Gianni Gallier, alternate.
Jamie Brown, Terrence Bailey, Alex Hansen,
Here.
Kenny Wilson, Andrew Gamboa Vilimo,
Here.
Brian Davis,
Present.
Christopher Walker,
Ira Brewster for Christopher Walker.
Aaron Hoffman,
Here.
Joyce Kai, Lorraine Cargill,
Present.
Chang Jen Lan, Zaytek Martin, Kim Delaney,
Oh, there it goes. Thomas Lanahan, alternate. Sorry.
Felipe LaFaso,
Here.
Christopher Marsh,
Here.
Jonathan Rainsvold,
Present.
Natalie Crowley,
Giles Rhodes for Natalie Crowley.
Motassem El Turk,
Melissa Ackert for Moel Turk.
Jessica Keller,
Kevin Volbrecht for Jessica Keller.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Okay, seeing that we have a quorum, we're going to open up the floor for just a temporary chair for today's meeting. You can also nominate yourself.
I nominate Terrence Bailey as temporary. You've been one before.
Second.
Okay, so any other nominations? Okay, good. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So we're going to take 1 second to set him up.
All right, staff, are we ready?
Yes, Chair.
Are there any modifications to the agenda?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right, seeing none, we'll move on to 1C, a motion to approve. Are there any changes to the minutes? If any, please, can I have a motion to adopt the minutes as presented? Nothing, Alex?
So moved.
There you go. Do I have a second? Come on, I need you to be faster than that. Motion is made and probably second. All those in favor say aye. All opposed at the same right. Motion carries. 1D. You are going to regret this. General public comment. Seeing that the public's pretty thin. Anyone from the public? Is there anyone online that we need to?
No, Mr. Chair.
Any? Yep. All right. Here, having none, we'll move forward with 1E. Comments from the chair. I've made them. And any comments from members of the committee? Hearing none, we'll move on to 1F, TAC Liaison Report.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. So we're going to share the TAC liaison report on the screen. It's also available in front of you. The first two items are upcoming workshops that are occurring tomorrow and then also on Friday. So both are pretty good ones. If your schedule permits, you can attend. They're going to be in person. That's what we appreciate. You come in to those in person. They are going to be available as Zoom as well. But that in-person attendance makes it a little better for us. The first one is the Vision Zero Action Plan workshop. So we're in the process of updating our Vision Zero Action Plan. It's focused a lot on what metropolitan planning organization as ourselves can do. So if you are involved in Vision Zero in your community and you have time to participate, it's going to be tomorrow morning, June 5th, in this room. And it's going to take place at the same time that we typically have our Vision Zero Advisory Committee. Next is a transit-oriented communities workshop. So this is to advance policies surrounding transit-oriented development. And this is occurring at the TPA on June 6th, so on Friday, and it's going to be at 9:30 a.m. Both of those, you can sign up on our website at those links, palmbeachtpa.org/VZ workshop or TOC workshop. Next is the Bicycle Friendly America designation. So they're open right now. The business one is till June 5th, communities 25th, and then universities August 7th. To apply to be a bicycle friendly business, the TPA is one of those. You can apply at bikeleague.org/BFA. The next ones are ones we've had on our liaison report every month. The first one is Safe Streets and Roads for All grants, the round of grant opportunities at the federal level. Those are going till June 26th. You can find more information about additional Safe Streets and Roads for All updates for our communities at our website, palmbeachtpa.org/safety. And then if you have not signed up for a newsletter, you can do that on our webpage. We also send out once a month the events that are coming up in the community. So if you haven't signed up there, it's another way to see what we're doing. I think that's it.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to action items, 2A. The draft fiscal year tip. Staff, is there a presentation? I'm sorry, it says, I invite Andrew Euland, Deputy Director of Programs, to present this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is the second reading of our Transportation Improvement Program. It's been up for over a month now. We did the first reading last month. It's been open to the public for review. So the committees have seen it once, the board has seen it once, and this is our final reading of it. So it's going to be a shortened presentation since last time. But the Transportation Improvement Program, again, what is it? It's the list of products by phase and funding source over the next 5 fiscal years. So right now we're operating under fiscal year 2025. That's our current year. That's going to get us all the way to the end of June, so this month. And that tip is 25 through 29. So the one up for recommended approval today is from 26 through 30. And then in this, typically the new 5th year is what it's called. So 2030 is the year we're adding. The tip usually carries forward the projects from the prior tip. So the first 4 years are typically all already balanced. There's a few tweaks that do occur for those, but the majority of new products do come into the new 5th year, those phases. And so how did we get to this point in the process? We started over a year ago to start working towards the Transportation Improvement Program. And what's exciting is once you adopt this document, we're literally coming back next month to do 27 through 31 list of priority projects. So this is already ongoing cycle for multiple tips. But this one for fiscal year 26 through 30 started last winter, spring 2024. And it starts with product development. We go from the LRTP priorities, and then also the LRTP has programs in there that might be such as the Transportation Alternatives Program, which is an annual funding cycle for applications. Those products are then vetted and then ranked. That ranking is put into the list of priority projects, which is then seen by the committees, adopted by the governing board. That list is sent to FDOT AFDOT updates the revenue projections in the work program. They update the cost estimates, and then they start integrating the TPA priorities as well as other priorities at the state and local and regional level. That draft is then seen by the TPA. It was seen in December of 2024 for our comments. And then that document didn't really change much from what we've seen in this transportation improvement program draft. So very similar to what we saw in that original draft in December. And so now we are here at the second reading of this TPA tip for 26 through 30. High level summary for what you're seeing in this document: $3.2 billion in federal, state, and turnpike investment within our county over the next 5 years. The strategic intermodal system is doing a lot of work over the next 5 years. Majority of that work being on the turnpike system using turnpike toll revenues. So you're going to see work throughout the county on that. There's also additional work occurring at multiple I-95 interchanges using federal and state funds. Then there's $388 million invested in TPA priority projects. So those are the ones that are in that list of priority projects. Then there's other federal and state funded projects. So those are ones that wouldn't go in those two first sections, but those are ones that are maybe smaller scale, such as particular safety projects or a lighting project. We then have operations and maintenance of roadways. So those would include resurfacings, bridge rehab, replacements, and then also signals. And then we have operations and maintenance of transit. So that would go towards Palm Tran. And then we have a combination of airports, seaports, and rail projects. And to summarize our TPA priorities, again, $388 million in federal and state investment. Road capacity, the largest share there, that is going towards the widening and extensions of Atlantic Avenue, which parts of that are underway, and then also State Road 7. Both of those include pedestrian and bicycle facilities. And then we have complete streets, so pedestrian bicycle facilities, road reconstructions for safety. That's $63 million. There's significant investment in signals and intersections coming in for both Palm Beach County signals and as also Boca Raton signals. That's $53 million. We continue to invest in transit vehicles for both Palm Tran and SFRTA, as well as enhanced shelters. That's $32 million. And then we have $4 million in lighting and safety, which are also included in some of these other sections, but those are standalone ones that didn't fit in the other ones. This is my last slide for you. Final adoptions occurring this month at the governing board meeting, June 26th, presented in May. And then since May, we haven't made substantial changes to the documents. We've received AFDOT comments from their product managers to tweak some of the descriptions to make it more legible, fix some mileages. So we continue to make some small tweaks, nothing major, no product being added or deleted at this time. And we've also had significant effort to roll out our mapping application and our interactive tools. So if you haven't seen it yet, we've worked with our staff to incorporate that, and it's available on our website. And I think it's our best year yet for that. So if you haven't seen it yet, please do. And with that, if there's any questions.
All right, staff, are there any public comments on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right, do we have any comments from the members?
Did at that time. Andrew, two questions for you. So on the list of projects, the improvements in Indian Trail Improvement District are showing federal eligibility on hold. It was my understanding that that had been resolved, but maybe I'm mistaken. Is it still questionable whether they can use that money on their roadways?
Sure. So there's a current legal things going on unrelated to the TPA, but related to if ITID roadways are for public use and can be use public dollars. And so because of that lawsuit, and it's going through the system and there's been appeals, that's why it still says on hold.
Okay.
But the position right now, as it stands in the court system, is that they are not public roadways. So that's why they're on hold. We have a few of those. There's, I think, 3 or 4 of them. And the position we're taking at the TPA right now is to potentially move those back in the process. So they'll be in the later part of the 5-year program, or maybe not at all, but still shown on the list of priority products, but they wouldn't be moving forward for getting funded. So
Okay.
still on hold.
Still on hold, okay. And then second question, where is it? The Tri-Rail Northern layover is showing 90% design plans, cost estimates expected in early 2025. So it's June, which isn't early anymore. So could this be updated, or what is the status there? Sorry to put you on the spot, Lorraine.
No worries. We have received the 90% plans and the updated cost estimate that came in early May.
So what happens next?
What happens next is those plans are being reviewed. They need to be reviewed by FDOT, CSX, our design reviewer. That should be completed fairly soon. And if there's no major changes, our design consultant will then move forward to 100% design plans.
Okay.
So that should be completed by, I believe, August. We should have 100% design plans.
Okay. Thank you. So I don't know if maybe that description could get updated a little bit.
Yep, we can do that for
Thank you.
the board copy.
All right, anyone else? Oh, there you go, Alex.
Actually, just following up on what the two questions that Tom had on the Indian Trail Improvement District projects. If a final legal determination is made that those roads are not public and that the transportation alternatives funds cannot be used on ITID facilities, is the expectation that those monies would then be reallocated to other transportation alternative projects? Or are we losing that funding? Has that been determined in the case that those roads are deemed not to be public and that they do not qualify? And then a follow-up question for Lorraine. Construction, when do you anticipate construction to start, assuming that 100% plans are completed or are completed sometime this year? Do you have an estimate of start and finalization of construction?
So construction will be dependent on FPU, Florida Public Utilities. We are waiting to hear from them on their schedule. They need to relocate some utilities before we can move forward with construction. Having said that, our time frame right now is to bring on a contractor by early 2026. So advertise later this year, have a contractor on board by early 2026. Our hope is that FPU during that time will relocate their utilities. So that's the plan.
Okay. And then good question, Alex, on the sort of what happens to funding. So these are going to be pushed back in the program. And some of them are already pushed back. So we're trying to get out ahead of it, so it's not hitting us in the current year. But in cases like that, yes, other ones would fill in from the list of priority products list to fill that void. Things like this, to get a little more in the details, obviously these locally administered projects do have a timeline, and so pushing those more quickly can be difficult. But we don't foresee any issues at this time with this because we're going to put them in the back of the program, and typically those TA products haven't even really begun design yet, so it should be fine. Yeah.
You good, Alex? Okay. I'll go last. So the conference call I just jumped off of, this is tangential to the tip, but the city of Riviera Beach has had 2 bright line fatalities in 2 weeks. Previously, we hadn't had any, maybe in decades. So it is of grave concern to the city and our administration. the current rate of fatalities. I think I looked it up and there was 41 fatalities on Brightline in 2024. While it will not impact this tip, I was directed to put everyone not on notice is a bad term, but this is going to be an issue. Fatalities, especially, yeah, there you go. Especially as we move forward. So I'm not sure who the right staff person is, what we do, but we need to figure out how to focus on it and do something. And I think right now I know that, excuse me, I know the TPA invested millions when Brightline was coming on to do safety improvements, but I don't know that you'd find too many elected officials or people in responsible charge along Brightline's corridor that would say it is currently sufficient based on the fatality rate and near miss rate that we have in Palm Beach County. I understand this is probably a bigger issue, but this is the group that is charged, excuse me, charged with sort of that level of responsibility on a global scale. So I want to introduce the conversation, and unfortunately, this is probably it is going to cost money, and this is a money conversation. So whatever it is, if we can put something on the agenda in the next couple of meetings, how do we make sure that this comes up? Again, I'm seeing head nods. We're not the only community that this is going to be an issue. This is going to come down from the top, and any one of us is only another fatality away from, being in a meeting that's very uncomfortable about what are you doing. So I will first kick it over to you, and then staff, if you could at least articulate and be prepared, probably at your next board meeting, what are we going to do about this?
I just want to echo that and second Terrence's comments, because in conversations with SFRTA, the city of Delray Beach is being put on the hook for the financial impacts of making safety improvements. And we feel also that Brightline should be responsible for some of that as well.
Right. And again, I apologize. I hate springing things on staff. Like I said, I just had to jump off a meeting since I'm the chair, and I was directed by my city manager to do something in your meeting.
No, and the concerns warranted, obviously. And we understand that. And I can stand here and talk about all the investments we've already made, right? Because you already know about all that, and the educational campaigns and the additional supplemental safety measures that we paid for. But we can continue to look at opportunities, and we'll talk with staff about other things we need to bring up here to get more of this conversation going at the TAC. Brian, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Sure. Just to highlight some of the work we've done, if you know of safety concerns that you want us to come out and evaluate, we will go out and look in the field with you. Recently, we were just in the field with the city of Delray Beach. We identified 4 intersections that have crossing needs, and they're going to be, last I'd heard, pursuing a Chrissy grant to do some of those safety improvements. But the locals have to let us know. We'll contact FRA and the appropriate parties, and we'll get out into the field and work with you on those things. So let us know how we can help. I'm not sure what we would do in terms of an agenda item other than just reporting out information that you've already kind of reflected on. But if there is things that we can work on, I'd rather it be more so in the field and getting out with the FRA inspector, getting out with Brightline and our FEC staff, and working with them directly on identifying what we could go after and pursue with everybody in agreement that that's the right engineering countermeasure to address the fatalities. So let us know. We'll be out there with you.
Okay. I guess my concern with that would be executives and elected officials not going to want to hear when somebody dies, we'll show up out there.
Mm-hmm.
That's not an answer I can take back to the city. So and I don't know that any of you want to be sitting in front of your elected official saying, well, that's the answer I got from the TPA. I apologize. I did not put that word in your mouth. That's not what you said. So my point is, we as a collective, we already invested in all of the improvements that would get you to where they don't blow the horns, right? And that there's all the safety criteria, quiet zones, right? Which was a pretty high bar. So the question is there really anything left that we haven't already invested in? But it does not appear to be effective given the fatality and near miss rate. So then what is next? I don't know that just waiting and when you see something, say something will show up may not be the right answer. I mean, I don't know that's the right answer for an elected official who has a constituency who is concerned. So, and again, I apologize for putting you on the spot. And I'm really, again, I got thrown in a boiling pot of water at 9 o'clock this morning. So yeah, I think let us take the month. Let's maybe regroup and we can all go back and see what is the expectation of our community, what can the TPA do, and just open up a dialogue before we lock ourselves into another funding round in 6 to 12 months when we start the TIP process again. That was really my sort of bringing this, let's see what we can do to get funding beginning in the next round.
Right. And I think that for what it's worth, I'm not suggesting that we wait for crashes to happen. Thank you, Terrence, Chair Bailey. There are grants that are out there that can address known safety issues now. So communities are able to be proactive, work with FEC and FRA, and go after these grants independently of even engaging with the TPA. Those countermeasures include law enforcement grants, fencing grants, and others that are all available through the FHWA or FRA. So there are grant opportunities that are out there, and we want to be proactive, and that's where I offer up our staff time and our coordination efforts. But in terms of bringing an item to the body, this is not something that I think that we've heard any requests specifically from communities about, and that's what we would need to do to get it into our funding program. So let us know what your needs are, and we'll take it from there.
Again, not to belabor the point, but having a hodgepodge system of safety amongst the, I guess it's what, 10, 12, 15 communities that have Brightline that cut through them is not generally how we operate as this body. We try to come together, do the analytics, be unified so that you have consistency in how we're going to address this. I know Gardens is doing things, but to have each of us individually come up with something, and then at the interfaces of these communities, you have something disparate that creates gaps. That's what this body was for. So we have that sort of universal solution potentially, and it may be somewhat localized, but to at least at the study level come together. But I won't belabor the point. I do see a card up on the other side. Melissa, we'll start with you.
I'm Melissa Acker from Palm Beach County. We've been interacting with several cities who've been going through the process with FRA to inspect their crossings, to upgrade them to quiet zones. And what we are finding is that a lot of improvements that were made by Brightline are not meeting standard. So we're having to come back and fix it. So that's kind of a problem on our end, is that, we're frustrated because the Brightline came through and they made these improvements, and now we're having to fix them when FRA comes through and inspects them. So that is a little frustrating, but I have learned that FDOT has a RAISE grant, and they are upgrading several crossings. So it's a lot of like coordination and finding out who's doing what. And it is difficult to, make sure that we're doing something, and that's not going to come and be replaced by Brightline or some other grant after the fact. So that has been challenging. It would be nice if there was a strategic plan that outlined everything that's being done, but that doesn't exist at this time. So we follow the standards. We've been having several meetings with FRA. We have another one scheduled this week, I think in Lantana. So we're doing our best to upgrade the crossings, and we actually also submitted for a safety grant to install pre-signals at some of the crossings that we observed having some issues. And so that there are some venues, but it would be nice to know if there are other options and other grant programs that we can go after.
All right, Lorraine, I think I saw you next.
I have a comment on another note, so I don't know if you want him to respond.
Not necessarily on
Okay.
Brightline or?
No, not
Okay,
related.
so let me
to
come
this
back to you, because
conversation.
I believe yours is going to be related, Jason.
Yeah, I just wanted to correct what I said. I said SFRTA, but I meant FEC. And also to note, follow up on Melissa's comment, I believe Brightline has a RAISE grant also to do envelope improvements in several locations, but we haven't heard in quite some time what the status of that is, at least in Delray Beach.
We'll check on that. And then we'll send out the grant with the specific countermeasures that need to be tailored to the community's needs. While it would be nice to come up with a FEC corridor-wide solution, the countermeasures need to dictate the risk that is in the community itself. So while it would be nice to showcase some of these things, and we can have my team share what the FRA's countermeasures specifically look at, it has to be based out of the community, and it has to come from the local government as a request for funding.
Mr. Rhodes.
One thing maybe to look in with Brightline and determine what's going on with the vehicle present detection. Understand that many of the intersections have it. It's not operating right now, and what could be done to re-network that and what we could work into it to do better alerts at the intersections when a vehicle's in there.
All right, so I think the least we could do at this point is if the staff could put together a little white paper of what communities can do when they find themselves in this situation, whether that's, as you had articulated, request a meeting out there with the TPA staff and FRA, whatever the steps are, because that's the kind of document we're going to have to send up line. And then, of course, we're going to be directed to do it. So we can do this, whatever the 12 or 15 times, or we could try to do it sort of more of a collective. But if you're articulating that there's really no way to unify this under a project-esque or study-esque across the whole county, then we'll have to do it individually, community by community.
So just to clarify what the committee's and true intent and purpose and need is, we have a training later that Andrew's going to get into on the core work products. Our goal is to collaboratively plan, prioritize, and fund the transportation system. Largely, we have obviously a 2,400 square mile county. And this committee's role is to advise us on agenda items that are pertinent to the governing board. So I would love to also have a strategic plan that looks at some of those things, but that is not our direct role and function, and that is not the direct role and function of the committee to request an agenda item of that nature. So I would respectfully disagree that it's the committee's kind of purview to request a strategic plan that looks at rail corridors overall. So we can ask for information and updates about what countermeasures are specific to community needs. We can work with you on planning and funding those needs. But when it comes down to an overall safety improvement, that's more than likely beyond the committee's nature, and that what we can try to accomplish. I do want to try to steer the conversation in a more productive way. And that's where I offer up the FRA's crash countermeasures research, where you can go out and do proactive safety involvement through your communities that have maybe adopted Vision Zero efforts. I do want to offer up grant resources so that communities can go out and look at what circumstances they have, because the circumstances for one community is not going to be the same for another. So we're happy to coordinate efforts across agencies. If there are things that we can do in that nature beyond that effort, we're happy to do that. But in terms of coming up with a strategic plan or an agenda item specifically related to this, we've already funded, as was mentioned a number of times, quiet zones, which have safety improvements that go into them at the crossings. Many of the fatalities that we see are trespassers or people crossing the railroad in their community, which there are safety grants for, which I've alluded to a few times. So I'll send those out to the committee as a action item for TPA staff to take on afterwards. So thank you.
All right. Chang, are you on this subject or something else?
Yes, one specific safety countermeasures I want to mention is it's not ASM, it's not SSM per se, but it was a field-proven, cost-effective countermeasure, which is, I have seen this, the plan proposed by the Hunt design engineer 2 years ago, and I've been voicing it. It seems like voicing to a TPA, voicing to the possible revenue, the avenue like FDOT, race grant, per se, but it has not been, there's a rumor that kind of roaming all over the places. It says it was proven effectively and then got to implement in south of the South Florida, where the quiet zone has been in place, and it will be gradually implemented through the rest of the county. However, I haven't seen this been likely to be materialized anyhow, which is the plan is very simple, call for the delineator and in conjunction with the RPM and so forth, present on the major corridor, the approaching lane, crossing on the crossing to prevent the vehicle kind of backtracking into the crossing where the 4-quadrant gate is not in place. And for example, in town of Jupiter, we are approaching to the final stage of implementing the quiet zones. There are still 2 crossing. We don't have the 4-quadrant gate. And those 2 crossing, we don't have the crossing gate. Was actually, one of them was cross the railroad at the accurate angle, and actually is geometry actually promoting the left-hand vehicle to encroach into the crossing when the train is approaching. It's quite dangerous. If without that, the delineator in places, to be honest with the town does have the concern pursuing the quiet zone. So I'm voicing that again to TPA since it's very cost effective. Is the implementation of that particular safety countermeasure is really low cost. So if the TPA can help to fund some of the costs for that, it will benefit the city that is on the verge of implementing the quiet zone a lot. We have been pursuing this grant opportunity with FDOT for a long time, just to address in the final couple of the deficiency before the quiet zone can implement it. It took, right now is the 8th month to pursue that the second portion of the race grant with FDOT to approve the amendment 13. It takes the 8 months now. So I'm just letting you know the funding process with FDOT could be very, very time consuming, but those cost effective implement cannot wait. And it can be implemented with a low cost. And I wish that the TPA can help the city for doing that. And that also include the maintenance of that in the long run. So.
Thank you. Kevin, are you on this subject or something else?
This subject.
Right.
Yeah, so, you know, in West Palm Beach, obviously, we're very concerned about this issues as well. It is a difficult situation to resolve. There's lots of issues involved in the fatalities and the accidents that are occurring. I think we're all trying to do what we can to improve the situation. I appreciate what Melissa said about them trying to coordinate the signalization with the tracks. The idea that you suggested that you're you know, it's kind of part of like an SSM sort of a thing. The quiet zones do offer additional safety measures. It is a very progressive evolutionary process that we all need to work on together. And perhaps if it's not something that can just be assigned to the TAC committee, that maybe we should get together and form our own task force and talk about what we can try to do to improve the railroad crossing safety. There's a number of, like you mentioned, I heard earlier that there's some functions on the tracks themselves that aren't functioning properly. You know, there are gates, there are ways of preventing or discouraging motorists and people from walking onto the tracks when a train is coming. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to abide by that. And what we can do to implement other things that will prevent them from doing that to a greater degree, I think those are things that we should also start looking at. This is not going to be a simple solution. I think it's going to take a while for us to get to a point where we have optimized the safety measures that need to be put in place for these crossings. And a lot of it is, there's engineering involved, obviously, there's education, there's enforcement. So maybe it would be worthwhile for us to try to form a task force outside of the TAC to work on these things, you know, together, because it's all along the same corridor. And I think that would be something that maybe we should try to consider if that's possible or not. And then for any funding opportunities that we want to pursue based on what we come up with, then we can work with the TPA to try to help facilitate that. That's just a suggestion I have. I think that would be worth doing since we all have the same kind of problem, same kind of issues, and doesn't go away. It recurs for other reasons. And so let's find out what those reasons are and let's work on what we can do to try to improve the situation together. So how we can facilitate doing some sort of a task force. I'm open to being involved in that, but I'm just throwing that out there for everybody's thought. Okay.
All right, thank you, Kevin. And the League of Cities actually has an intergovernmental group that this issue may fall more neatly in. I know I participated in it on roadway issues with the county and things that do so. If the TPA is not the right entity, maybe we'll look at that and I'll do a little research and send an email out for anybody. And again, if anybody is interested in this, since it's not going to be covered under this body, I'll make my email available because it's not going to go away and we'll see where this goes. All right. Lorraine, we're going to change subjects and let that horse go on the ground.
Thank you. Just a quick question. For staff related to Northern Layover Facility. You're showing the total cost right there of about 59 million. Is that the TPA's portion of the cost? Or is that the total cost, supposed to be the total cost of the project?
So as long as because there's phase one, there's the phase two, right?
Everything is going to be in one.
In one, that's going to be the TPA portion of it.
This is going to be the TPA
Yeah,
portion.
there's not the
Okay.
full amount there.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
That's
There's a separate line item in the tip related to, it might be one, but it's phase two in the document. I can
okay. So we
I can see you later about that. Yep.
Right, because the cost of the total project is more than what's showing here, so.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Kevin, you good? Your card's still up. All right, nope, no problem. Hearing none on the tip. Hearing none on the tip. We will receive a motion and then I'm going to assume, Alex, you're going to have something to say? You want to say it now or you want to say it after the motion? All right, why don't you make the motion? That way you can just put it in there. I'm joking. Can I get a motion to?
Motion to
item
approve.
2A? All right, hold on. There's like three of them. Whose name we're going to put on it? Staff, pick someone.
Okay, we'll pick Brian. I think I heard him
All right,
first.
then who's seconding? All right, there we go.
Yeah.
A motion has been made and properly second to approve item 2A, the 2026-2030 tip. Any comments?
Because of the inclusion of the State Road 7 extension and widening as part of the TIP, I cannot support this motion. So I'm going, because of the city's concerns about the impacts of these roads on the water catchment area and the pending litigation. So I am going to vote no on this item. And I want for my comments to be reflected on the record, please.
Kevin, you with West Palm Beach? No? All right, I'm sorry. I can't see that far. No. Yes, you're with West Palm?
Yes, I am.
Would you like to
I'm
also get in on that?
I'm going
Mr.
to vote
Bishop?
no on this as well for the same reasons.
Just want to make sure you didn't catch it when you got back to the office. Most is made and properly seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same.
Nay.
I believe that's the two nays for the record. Motion passes. We will now move on to
3A.
3A,
3A.
Advisory Committee Training, Advisory Committee Member Training.
Okay, it's me again. And so this is our informational item for today. We're just going to give a brief overview as our purpose as TPA as a metropolitan planning organization. So we're going to cover basically sort of where we are, how we were created through history, our committees, our structure, and some resources that we have. So high level, we are a metropolitan planning organization. And so we are a federally mandated agency with a federal grant to plan and prioritize federal transportation funds. And then at the state level, we also have that authority with state transportation funds. We have 3 advisory committees. You all are the technical advisory committee. That is one of the required ones. The other required committee in guidelines is the Citizens Advisory Committee. And then we also have a Vision Zero Advisory Committee who focuses on safety. Governing board of 21 local elected officials, and we have 14 staff. And so we in the room here have our mission and vision. It's to collaboratively plan, prioritize, and fund transportation with the vision of a safe, efficient, and connected multimodal transportation system. And to dive more into this word, Metropolitan Planning Organization, and MPO, doing business as a TPA, is a federally designated organization for all parts of the country, urbanized areas with a population of 50,000 plus. So there's 450 of us total in the United States. And we plan, prioritize, and fund that state and federal system in the urbanized area. So the most recent urbanized area that was adopted in our functional classification is on the right in that map. So the urban area, which is part of the Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach area, is in the east side of our county. And that's where we get our direct funding for prioritization from, those formula funds. And then we also have urban areas out in the Glades community. So all we do plan for the entirety of the county. It is focused more on the urban area, as that's where the funds that we directly prioritize can be spent, or meant to be spent. We have that 25-year transportation vision. And then a major part of the process is meant to be this public participation and local decision-making when it comes to transportation. And that's really where our roots come from, is in that collaboration. So going back to the foundation of why we federally exist starts with the creation of the interstate highway system, right? So the largest infrastructure investment in the history of our nation, and we continue to invest in throughout the country, is the interstate highway system. When that was first started to planned and started to be rolled out from a top-down approach, it started to get into local communities and displaced communities. It rerouted traffic from other roadways, such as something like US 1. And because of that sort of top-down approach, there was this other sort of rallying of a local decision-making in that process. And in the 1962 Federal Aid Highway Act, it made regional decision-making sort of a requirement when it comes to investing in the federal system. So that's when urban planning at the regional scale for transportation took effect. And then in 1973, Highway Act made it truly official with requiring it for all urbanized areas, 50,000 or more. We were then established as our formally with our first governing board meeting in 1977 with the release of the 2000 plan. So our year 2000 plan that looked 25 years in the future. And then since then, we've had plenty of federal legislation that has come through the years. Most recently, the 2021 Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. And then we're up for federal reauthorization in 2026 with a new bill. So foundation of it has really been collaboration and that local decision-making into that federal process. And that spirit lives on throughout all these bills, even though our requirements and our planning processes may have changed through the years. That's sort of where we came from and where we're still going. Our urbanized area and region. Again, we're part of that Miami, Broward, and Palm Beach urbanized area. Lots of partners throughout the 3 counties. Here in our county, specifically, some of our major operators of our transit facilities, Palm Tran, Tri-Rail. We have private with Brightline, Port of Palm Beach, airports. The TPA doesn't own or operate anything, as you all know, but we do have all the partners who come together for planning decisions. So, and investments for federal and state funds. Major roadway owners, both FDOT and the county, make it the majority of those, especially of our larger roadways that are federal aid eligible. And then our governing board is 21 elected officials. And our governing board structure, like how they are composed, it's really based on their on population requirements. And so we have 13 of our largest municipalities, 5 of 7 county commissioners, and then 1 port official. So that's what makes the 21 local officials. And then for our committees, TAC, CAC, VSAC, and then we have Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board. So that evaluates and plans local paratransit service with PalmTran. And then all of our committees are subject to Florida Sunshine Law as public committees. And then we do have resources that have been updated. So operating procedures lays this all out. And then each website, so at palmbeachtpa.org/TAC, we do have orientation handbook. So it has basically its presentation in a very succinct way. TAC specifically provides that technical review of transportation, and you review plans and provide recommendations for any transportation plans, programs, and studies. So especially for our core products, providing that feedback from a technical lens. And then from a statute perspective, at the Florida level, it's required to be composed of planners, engineers, local government representatives, and then aviation, seaport, public transit, and school district. Our core products. So Unified Plan and Work Program, Long Range Transportation Plan, our Transportation Improvement Program, and the Public Participation Plan. All 450 MPOs throughout the nation have all four of these. I would also say on this that all four of these documents are also reviewed by the Federal Highway Administration and the Federal Transit Administration, as well as FDOT. That first one, that Unified Planning Work Program, that's our 2-year application for federal grants with planning funds. It covers that 2-year period, and it really is the planning activities of that 2 years. So it's basically our operational plan. And with that, it has the budget and the funding sources, if the staff or consultants are going to do it, deliverables associated with what we're doing, and the completion dates. This plan is then reviewed and approved by FDOT and FHWA. And then once that occurs, they then give us authority once the fiscal year begins to start doing those activities and then reimbursing for those activities. So we accomplish those activities either through staff or consultants on those deliverables. We provide progress reports to FDOT and FHWA, and we get reimbursed monthly. Long Range Transportation Plan, just adopted this in December, sets that 25-year vision, updated every 5 years. So even though it's a living document, we do a larger refresh, especially for the modeling purposes, every 5 years. And with it comes goals, objectives, and performance measures. A lot of those requirements are baked into all those federal transportation bills that I bulleted earlier on. So we receive newer requirements or a change in requirements that really impact our core products through those bills. It's a forecast of growth and development and where it's going to occur over 25 years and what the demand is going to look like for all of our modes. And then from that, we establish our transportation needs. And then lastly, in that, we have revenue forecasting and funding. So how are we going to fund it over the next 25 years? The products from that feed into the list, the Transportation Improvement Program, which you just all recommended for adoption to the governing board in this last action item. And so again, we talked about how that originates from the LRTP, it then goes to the list of priority projects and then to the Transportation Improvement Program. And so this is really very similar to our Unified Plan and Work Program, where this is the approval for from FHWA that we can start doing those activities, but for the product side of things, those phases. Then lastly, our Public Participation Plan, which is another required document. This really establishes the public engagement and input processes, and it really makes a focus on a lot of the core products and how that goes about for the public review period, how we receive comments, and then it's updated as needed. It is recommended we typically update this before our LRTP. Since you're doing a huge kickoff for your LRTP and it does a lot of public outreach, it's typically recommended to update it at that time. And that's actually when we kind of last did it in 2023, right before we started that process. And then for regional coordination, again, it's the 3 counties with other various partners in the region, our planning councils as well. Tom Lanahan's here with Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, and we have Tri-Rail. And with the 3 counties, we do have one unified voice in regional planning with the Southeast Florida Transportation Council. And we have our own individual long-range transportation plans that look out 25 years. And then coming right behind it, usually about the same time, actually, we are working towards a regional plan. So we just adopted our 3 plans, us in December. Broward adopted theirs, and Miami-Dade as well. We're on the same cycle. We bring those all together and create one unified plan. And then it's really about strategies to move that plan forward as a region. And our region continues to grow. 33,000 people being added every year into the future here for 2050 using the latest median growth projections out of UF. And then from a transportation funding perspective, again, we deal mostly with federal and state transportation funds, majority being that federal amount for prioritization. And those are the ones that are approved into our long-range transportation plan and the transportation improvement program. We're also showing local funds up here just for informational purposes about where those come from. But for all 3 funding sources, the gas taxes at the federal, state, and local level are the major funding sources. And at the federal level, you might have a few other ones with heavy vehicle use and vehicle sales. And then another larger trend at the federal level is actually bringing in general revenue funds, because with fuel taxes, which are sort of leveling out over time with more fuel efficient vehicles, and then also the increase in the cost of transportation infrastructure, they're starting to supplement the Federal Highway Trust Fund with general revenue funds. Those federal funds are typically coming down through those transportation bills, and we get the formula funds for our area based on population to urbanized areas. But there's also opportunities out there we've discussed with discretionary grants, which are competitive ones at the federal level. Then at the state transportation trust fund level, similarly, fuel taxes, that major source among other sources, these also are based sometimes on collection. So like where gas taxes collected in Palm Beach County are really meant to be spent back into Palm Beach County. So they're sort of like a formal or a collection-based system, but they also have a few discretionary programs at the state level. And then local funds, for informational purposes, we don't have any oversight over these, but fuel taxes, infrastructure tax, property tax, and then road impact fees are those most common sources. This is very similar to the last tip presentation, how we get to the Transportation Improvement Program. Again, really starts with that product development, work its way through the LRTP, into the list of priority projects, draft 10 of work program, and then Transportation Improvement Program. And we'll be starting that up again, as I said, next month with the list of priority projects. And then many of you may be pretty familiar with the process for getting a project from planning to construction, but it can be a long process, right? So depending on the complexity of the process, it can go from planning to programming, and then it may require utilities, it may require right-of-way, and then so when you incorporate many of those phases, it might extend the length of the project, the time, but the ones that are simpler in nature, such as transportation alternatives, there's no right-of-way acquisition, so that's really one that you can design and then construct in 3 years. And this is my last slide. Just other things that if you haven't been involved or seen our resources, we have more information on our About page. And then on our resources page, we have our TPA mapping, which I mentioned. We have community profiles. We do walk bike audits in the fields with FDOT and local partners. So if those are something that you're interested in as well, let us know. And we have other resources on the website along with those. And then we mentioned before our newsletters and workshops. Again, our next 2 upcoming workshops are tomorrow on the Vision Zero action plan update. And on Friday, we have it on transit-oriented communities. So it's really just meant to be a brief overview. We haven't had one in a while, and I know we have a lot of new members. So if you have any questions, be happy to take them.
Alex, I see your card.
Just a minor note, in the local funding sources, you identified roadway impact fees, which is correct, but I will also add mobility fees consistent with the state legislation. So either mobility fees, roadway impact fees, or as a separate item, but I think it should be reflected there.
Thank you. That's a good point.
All right.
So what year did the TPA start?
I believe it was not, you're quizzing me right here. 1977 is what I had for the,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I had that as the
Thank you.
first meeting in its existence. I didn't go back and do my homework on like looking at the agreement that was in place, but I'm pretty sure that's what it
Okay.
was.
All right, anyone else on this item? If staff, thank you. We'll move to administrative items. Items 4A through C are informational only. There will be no staff presentation unless requested by a committee member. Any request by a committee member for 4A through C?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I have one question or one item as well. I forgot to mention, I'm sorry. I wanted to mention that we have an intern, Kevin Vargas is with us. He's going to be here for the summer. And he just graduated from UF and he's going to go to grad school for planning
Hey, go Gators.
in the fall. But then also, I wanted to do a pitch here. He's going to help us a lot with capital improvement program, mapping of projects and getting those for informational purposes in our tips. So we're going to be reaching out again because we haven't received it from jurisdictions in a while. So we'd love to have a comprehensive look at all mapping. So we'll be reaching out soon if we can't find your CIP or the products behind it. So, thank you.
All And with that, the next meeting is July 2nd. Having no other business, we are adjourned.